Welcome, connoisseurs of fine common cardboard, to today's live stream. We're going to be experimenting with some new tools today. We've got the green screen up. My systems are still a little bit, we're figuring out how to make them work here. Maybe we can resize me here a little bit. But stoked to have you all here. You'll have to pardon my nasally voice. I'm a little under the weather right now, and I've been struggling with a little bit of insomnia. So I didn't sleep very well last night, and I figured, you know what, we're going to take something that I've been thinking about for a lot of years, something that basically when it came out, it was of interest to me, and we're going to see what we can do with it. The idea with this particular build is to take Mr. Orfeo and experiment with a lot of the different things that I've been learning in cPDH with you all. So stoked to have you all here. Erosium. We've got Charles, we've got Alex. Welcome everybody, glad to have you all here. And pardon for the resolution on the camera. I'm using a different camera than my previous one because I just haven't gotten a stand for it yet. For those of you who are watching now, I just moved, spent about a month moving, and basically everything is in disarray still. So we're gonna just make it work as we can. So let's, without further ado, get started here. And we're gonna do a quick presentation here. Ah, there's the green screen. Not bad, huh? Wow, okay. Yeah, I like it. Okay. Well, Robert, good to see you, my buddy. Yeah. So, Dwayne the RHOX Johnson playing a good old JUND or the Rock, green, black rock, of course. Some of my favorite colors. I really, really like what it offers in terms of threats. It's giving you card advantage. You've got fantastic removal. You're going to get access to a lot of different cycles of cards that are going to be really powerful, and we're going to have remarkably good mana despite the fact that we're playing three colors. So let's get started here. We're going to be learning a little bit today about just playing good stuff decks, and I've been seeing a lot of discussion in the PDH home base and in the connoisseurs and elsewhere, going back and forth about good stuff. And for those of you unfamiliar with the lingo, what we're talking about with good stuff is a deck packed full of the best cards for those slots. It doesn't just mean playing the best cards in each color. It does mean playing, to me, it means playing the cards that are best in slot for that color instead of just doing like a particular combo of some sort. And that might seem like a duh, but the discussions have been like, well, do you want to build a combo deck, or do you want like a good stuff deck, or do you want a high synergy deck? And when we build around synergy, we get a higher power level ceiling. We also get a lower floor. And what I really like about good stuff is that it's incredibly, it's a lot more reliable. Your cards just work. And in Pauper and in cPDH, where removal is really fantastic, and the card advantage is actually quite good, and the answers are better than the threats, having cards that just work is really, really good. We're also going to talk about JUND and why having a three-color commander, regardless of its real ability, is actually a huge boon to your deck because it expands the breadth of coverage you get and really grants you a ton of options in a lot of different colors. And of course, Mr. Orfeo does have a relevant ability. It's amazing for closing out the game. We're also going to be exploring a little bit of something I've been working on and thinking about with three-color decks, and that is cycling and recursion. These decks don't love a deck like Mr. Orfeo, where you want to ramp a little bit, then play big threats, and then hit with them. They don't really love to have like these expensive draw spells, anything over 2 really, because they need to have things that fit into the curve. Maybe you play a 5-mana spell and you have 1 mana left over, and you can cycle a creature and then recur it later on to play it as a threat. So the thing that I want to test is with 3-color, how can we build card advantage into our deck and churning that actually ends up as threats in the late game. Cards like Horror of the Broken Lands, for example, where you cycle it away, you get a card back, you keep moving along, you keep progressing your game plan, and then later on you can get it back from your graveyard and then redeploy it as a threat. So let's take a look at Mr. Orfeo. The first thing we're going to notice, it is a 3-color deck. It is a JUND deck. The colors here are relevant. Black is going to give us great card advantage. Red does have some forms of card advantage in it too with impulse effects, but black is going to be removal, it's going to be edicts, it's going to be a pestilence, it's going to be cranial plating. There's a lot to love about being in black right now. Red is going to give us really efficient removal and damage-based stuff. It's also going to give us double strike effects, which are really powerful in this. Double strike, trample, anything like that. They're going to make sure that we push a lot of damage with our creatures. And then what JUND doesn't really have is protection that keeps your creature in combat. Green gives us that. Green gives us hexproof abilities, cards like Vines of the Vastwood, pump and hexproof abilities that are going to ensure that we clap for a lot of damage. So this is a really exciting color pairing, and there's a lot of reasons to love it, and it's a shame we don't have more JUND commanders in this format, but this is a damn good one. Now, the next thing we're going to see is Mr. Orfeo's ability. And Mr. Orfeo's ability allows us, when we attack, just when we attack. So in a form, Mr. Orfeo has kind of haste. We're going to double a creature's power. And in some ways, like, Mr. Orfeo is not really our game plan in the build that I'm thinking about today. We're going to play the best cards that green-black has, that JUND has to offer. And we're going to, with a focus on creatures that have like 4 or more power and creatures that have trample. So that's kind of the vision for what we have going on here today. And when these cards came out, you know, obviously these have made waves across every single format. I ranked them incredibly high when they were spoiled. They're just phenomenal. They are all, the whole cycle is in Vintage Cube, except for Eagles of the North. And they're just damn good. We get 3 of them because of our color combination. So for having a third color, it's not just about the best cards, it's also these cycles of cards where you get a whole nother kind of that effect, right? So here we have 3 of these 1-mana cyclers, which can allow for some pretty explosive plays where we go, you know, turn 1, cycle a creature, turn 2, mana rock, turn 3, dread return. Or we can use our recursion to just get them back and continually get our mana going, or we top deck them and we just cast them. And they're phenomenal. Troll of Khazad-dûm, if we double its power, it's hitting for 12 unless they block it with 3 creatures, which will all die. Oliphant is going to grant trample to the creature that we double the power on. And Generous Scent is just like a big, thick creature that's going to help fix our mana. It's a little bit less synergistic, but it's still a great card. And I always play these cards. I don't think I have a single deck now where I don't play every one of these that I can. They're just really amazing. The question you have to ask yourself is, when you draw these, do you wish it was an Ash Barrens? If you did, then maybe you shouldn't play it in the deck. But I don't think there's a lot of examples of when that's the case. Ash Barrens can be played as an untapped land, and that is good. But these can be a massive game-ending threat. So these are great. The other thing is that I've been thinking a lot about these 1-mana cyclers that are also kind of like mid-sized threats, and how a deck that wants to get aggressive doesn't really want to be like spending a lot of money or like mana drawing cards. You want to like churn a little bit, get to your ramp, hit your land drops. You want to just keep moving through your deck. And so what I want to experiment a little bit with today is these Horror of the Broken Land, Monstrous Carabid, Desert Ceradon, these big, thick creatures that also happen to be very good with Mr. Orfeo. There's more of them when you go into 2 mana, but at 2 mana, then we need to start thinking about whether that actually fits into our curve or not. Now in black, we're going to get amazing recursion. The recursion in black continues to get better. With cards like Reaping the Graves, which have always been around since Scourge. This card is going to allow us to get a lot of creatures back. This could easily be like a draw 5 at instant speed. It's phenomenal. Dread Return is going to be particularly good in this deck when we have it with a 2-mana rock and the sufficient lands to play it. If we can cycle something into Dread Return, we're going to have a good time. Unsealed the Necropolis and Another Chance might look a little interesting. Why would we want to mill? Well, when we go into JUND colors, we get Gurmag Angler and Hooting Mandrills, which are both big, cheap threats that we can play undercosted. Hooting Mandrills even has trample. So a little bit of self-mill is fine here. And Unsealed the Necropolis and Another Chance have the added benefit of once they resolve, they mill the cards into the graveyard, and then we can choose. So these are actually kind of like a form of card selection. If you don't have creatures in the graveyard, or maybe you have one. Let's say you have one creature in the graveyard, and you unseal the Necropolis. you're going to put 3 more cards into the graveyard, and then you're going to select 2 creatures from it. And in a creature dense deck, this is a very much a zoo deck. There's a really high likelihood that we're going to get some options, 2 or 3 creatures in the graveyard that we can get back. So this is kind of like a black draw spell, but it's also like a black recursion spell. Same thing with another chance. Of course, Unsealed Necropolis has the ability to mill other players, which does have some opportunities for some interesting play when you're playing against somebody who's stacking things on top of their deck, and you can mill those cards into the graveyard, back into the graveyard. And then with another chance here, we do the same thing. And we got a whole bunch of comments here. Thank you everybody for your participation. I'm going to get to those when we get to the end of the presentation with you. So the other thing is that when we're in JUND, back to the cycles, we're also going to get that much more initiative. And I'm a firm believer that the initiative is one of the most powerful things in the entire format. You can go back and watch some of my early videos on initiative talking about Rilsa, but initiative, if it was just 4 mana, get this effect, is still playable. It's still good. When you put a creature on it, it starts to read like you got a creature and a planeswalker. And that's busted. If you pay 5 mana for a 5/4 trample and you also get a planeswalker, that's crazy value, right? And this is a game-ending mechanic. Not immediately, it takes time. And there's a lot of political shenaniganry you can do, where you can engage in coalitionary behavior with players who have shared goals with you to trade resources back and forth for small amounts of damage. So you're actually progressing the game against that player, but for small amounts. You trade a little bit here and there so that they can trap people, so that they can forge people, so that they can goad people. But when we have so much initiative in our deck, we're actually going to be very much in control of it because we have 5 initiative cards in our deck instead of maybe 2 or 1. Not only that, but these creatures are amazing in this deck. Underdark Explorer is a 5/3 with Menace. It's going to be a 10 power creature. Stirring Bard is going to haste our creatures out with Evasion, and then we're going to double their power. And then Avenging Hunter is just a 10 power Trampler. So these are really, really good cards. Vicious Battle Rager is the only one that isn't as hot in this deck. But we have ways to improve that situation. The other thing we're going to get, and I think this is going to be a really important ingredient in this deck, is we need ramp. Because to play creatures that we actually want to double the power on, creatures that are like at least 3 power, but mostly 4 power, we're going to need to ramp a little bit. We're going to need to move up the curve really rapidly, and being in 3 colors helps us do that because we get a lot more good 2-mana rocks instead of having to dip into cards like Thought Vessel or, Fractured Power Stone or things like that. We're going to have Arcane Signet, Rakdos Signet, Golgari Signet, and Gruul Signet. And I think we're going to try and focus on mainly using artifacts to ramp. And the reason being is that we still want to play a couple of sweepers in this deck to clean up blockers, and because we want to be resilient against sweepers ourselves. And because in green, we could be playing elves, right? But I think that this is better. And what this also enables is cranial plating. I'm a huge believer in cranial plating, especially in a deck like this. It's kind of like a second copy of Mr. Orfeo. And if we just have like 6 artifacts in play from our mana rocks and from our lands, then we're going to hit people for huge amounts of damage with that cranial plating. And we can swap it around onto the trampling creatures. Very powerful. So yeah, there's cranial plating, as we just talked about. Now, the other things that feed the cranial plating is that when we're in 3 colors, we get more artifact lands. So instead of having, like if you're in black only, you get Vault of Whispers, Darksteel Citadel is free because you're only black. And then you get your Drossforge Bridge, right? You get, if you're in red-black, then you're going to get Drossforge Bridge, Great Furnace, and Vault of Whispers. So being 2 colors doesn't actually increase the number of artifact lands you can run, really, because in 2 colors, you don't really want to run Darksteel Citadel. When you get to 3 colors, suddenly you don't run Darksteel Citadel, and you run twice as many artifact lands. Vault of Whispers, Great Furnace, Tree of Tales, and of course Drossforge Bridge, Slagwood Bridge, and Mosswood Bridge, which is really, really good. So cranial plating starts to look exceptionally good in this particular context. Now the next thing, looks like I didn't add it here, but this right here is supposed to be, let's see, I wonder if I can change it while we're here. This is supposed to be a boarding party. Where are you at, boarding party? There we go. Get back to work. Okay. Excellent. So we got Maelstrom Colossus, we've got Annoyed Altasaur, and we have Boarding Party. And I think that when we're in JUND, we really just want to build our board, we want to apply pressure, and we want to disrupt people. And cards like Maelstrom Colossus, Annoyed Altasaur, and Boarding Party can be massive tempo plays. If you Annoyed Altasaur, Boarding Party, or Colossus into an initiative card, into a removal spell, into a draw spell, into, you know, even more ramp is not that embarrassing, right? Like getting more ramp in a deck like this is like, we kind of like it, right? We have a lot to do with our mana, and these are just amazing cards to do that. Now, there's a lot more that we're going to cover here today, but this is the extent of the presentation for here. So let us switch over to our MOX field here. And I'm going to catch up on a couple of the comments here. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Looking pretty clean today with the green screen. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're testing out some software. Yeah, it's actually working better than I thought it would, which is exciting. And Grixis boy at heart, but Jund is a good choice for sure. Yeah, I love Grixis too. All the three-color stuff is super fun. Abzan is super cool. Sultai is fun. You know, like I don't really like Bant. I don't really care for Bant very much. But you know, there's a lot of cool stuff. Lloyd Thompson, I don't ever play green, but the black and red do make this intriguing. Yeah, you know, black and red is Rakdos is incredibly based. The powerful removal options you get to this point where you're like splitting hairs between like the best removal spells in the format, and that feels really good. And then Erosium, hoping for more 3 colors in Bloomborough. Yeah, that would be great. We definitely want more of that. Lobert says, what a juicer to steal Sniff's words. Absolutely, yeah, Sniff would be very proud. I found the decks that play one of the 2 available mana cyclers, but never 0. Yeah, I think there may be instances where you just genuinely don't want one of them, but they're few and far between. Yeah, you definitely want them almost always. And I'm smelling Cycle Storm vibes. Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of that going on. And there will be some cards here that we look at, like a Dranis Stinger that we could potentially play, but it may be a little too lost in the sauce because this card doesn't attack very great. Throne of the Dead 3 with the Cyclers in the list has been a new favorite. Yeah, so this is another thing that's amazing. Like, we're playing a ton of initiative. This is an initiative deck. It's very good at doing the initiative thing. And when you have this many Cyclers, these would have been like some other land, and instead they're increasing your odds of hitting a really good creature off Throne of the Dead 3. And these are game-ending threats. Like Oliphant coming in is like a 9/7 with trample that gives trample to the other things, or Troll coming in is like a 9/8, you know, super menace that doesn't die to Snuff Out, doesn't die to Executioner's Capsule, doesn't die to Doomblade, doesn't die to Terror, doesn't die to Seal of Doom. Like, it's sick. It's disgusting. These are really, really good threats. And so, yeah, Throne of the Dead 3 with the Cyclers is like another one of those layered synergies. So definitely a good point, Erosium. Vicious Battle Rager being the worst. Yeah, you know, this is actually one of the few places where Vicious Battle Rager is actually the worst of the initiative creatures in our deck. Only kind of, though, because it's 4 mana. And it's going to be great with other things, like it's going to hold Pestilence really well. It's going to fix our mana. The initiative is so damn good. It's going to fix our mana in this deck so perfectly. And then we've got Charles. Great point here about the gates. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because there's tension between cards like Arkham's Astrolabe, which I think, Lobert, you'll be happy to hear. I think we will be playing that in this deck. There is some tension because we want to play a lot of different lands. Like, we want to play our artifact lands, we want to play our dual lands, we want to play stuff like Mortuary Mire, maybe Bajuka Bog for our crop rotation, which is going to be really good. And then also cards like Path of Ancestry that fix us on 3 colors, Opal Palace that, you know, also fix our mana. You know, like Opal Palace and Study Hall can fix our mana. So yeah, we get tight on those slots. So the question about gates is going to be like, how reliably do we do that? How many slots does it take up? Because as we look at it currently with 35 lands, we have 1, 2, 3, 9, 14, 20, 21, 22, 23, 23 untapped lands. And that's a bit on the low side, but we are a 3-color deck. Like, we have to make that's the cost of doing business, right? And one of the ways we're going to offset the tap lands is that we're just going to have like a ton of really good ramp, which is going to work itself out. So I don't know if the gates make sense here, because you can see the gates are over here. The gates would basically make almost all of our lands tapped. It would, instead of having 2/3 being untapped, we would have 1/3 untapped. So then it's like, is Basilisk Gate better than Cranial Plating? And I don't know that it is. Basilisk Gate is sorcery speed. It can't be like switched onto another creature. It takes like getting lands into play that are of a specific type, whereas like these are just like artifact rocks that we're playing out. I just like, we can play more artifacts than we can gates. The benefit of the gates is that they make our mana really, really good, right? So you guys can discuss this in the chat. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on it, but this is just one of the tension points that I was going to bring up for us today is like, do we play Cranial Plating? Do we play Basilisk Gate? Like, what kind of stuff are we on? And then Basilisk for the pump and then double it. Yeah, and that could be good for sure. Takes a ton of slots though. Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about some of the stuff we've got here. And actually, let's pull this off to the sideboard just for the moment. What I've got so far, we've got Arcum's Astrolabe to fix our mana. We currently have 12, 17, 20 snow-covered lands. So that's going to be like a little bit less than 2/3 of our lands will work with Arcum's Astrolabe, and this will cheaply draw us a card and then fix our mana for the rest of the game. If we decide to go into any like artifact sacrifice packages with your Reckoner's Bargain, Deadly Dispute type stuff, then we may actually then this will have a great fodder for that. Wildfire feels so bad if it happens. We lose our whole plan. With the artifact lands, that isn't necessary in case the plating is removed. We've still got sack and draw to other things. Wildfire. Let's see, which one are we talking about here? You talking about Cleansing Wildfire, using it to ramp? Because we don't have it in the list currently. And there's a bunch of untagged stuff here. Basically ignore this. These are some cards that are like in consideration. So we have the Iron Hoof. Anything that blood rushes or discards to pump is really strong here because it's uncounterable and it helps us get even more damage in on unblocked creatures. But also those cards can be brought back from the graveyard. Yeah, Cleansing Wildfire. So Cleansing Wildfire only has 4 targets in the whole deck. Oh, I see. And you're saying if Basilisk Gate gets removed, then yeah, you're borked. Well, Cleansing Wildfire is not a very commonly played card, and I think if somebody got me with it, it's like whatever. I mean, sure, it's a good card to play. I don't think it's bad. It does have good targets for sure. It's just that I generally don't find room for it because it's not always ramp. It's in fact, it's frequently not ramp. So. Yeah, if Cranial gets removed, the artifact lands still have use. Exactly. The plan seems really slow, but the haste can make some insane turns. Yeah, so this is going to be a deck that gets online like probably turn 4, 5, 6, start getting big threats, and we're going to have the interaction to go into the late game because this is not a finished deck. We're going to build it together. So let's get these into the sideboard. I was kind of looking at all the cycling cards we have. There's some cycling payoff cards as well, like your Horror of the Broken Lands. We have cards like Grizzly Survivor, which is like a 3-mana, 4-power threat, maybe 6 power in some case. We have Prickly Marmoset and Scophos Reaver, which are also big threats that we can play. There's Pitiless Vizier as well, which would be pretty cool. Double the power on Pitiless Vizier, cycle a card. The question is the cycling going to be a little too cute? Maybe. And I think that's what we're here to figure out. So let's get some of these ones here out. The haste ones are interesting to me. But I think that we're looking for the very finest of common cardboard here. Nothing but the best will do. Target attacking creature gets +3/+3. It's a 3/3 for 4, which is not great, but it is a pump spell. I think Tuk Tuk Rebel Fort is going to be amazing here. We're probably going to want Crashing Drawbridge as well. I think that the comment about wanting haste in this deck is going to probably be quite accurate. Quakefoot Cyclops is pretty cool. It's going to make it so things can't block if we ETB it. But if we cycle it, we draw a card and something can't block, which could be good. It may get the cut, but we'll see. This one here is going to go into the sideboard. Slaughterhorn, a little bit more efficient. +3/+2, so a little less toughness, but it's a 3/2 for 3. So, okay. Merchant of the Veil. There's some leftover stuff from when this was still a Madness deck. And so those of you may have seen the other version of this here. We'll go back really quick and do Mr. like that. And here, this is the Mr. Orfeo deck that I've had on Moxfield for the longest time. It's got quite a few views. I think people see the decks that have the legendary commanders a little bit more often. So this is the build from before, and this one has a lot of Madness stuff in it because Madness turns on some really nice synergies, like with Reckless Worm, Arrogant Worm, Belligerent Guest to make blood tokens over and over again, things like that. But ultimately, it felt just a little too inconsistent for me, and I really like consistency. And furthermore, mainly the Madness felt inconsistent. Like, it would work most of the time, but like not enough for me personally. And I really want to experiment just with the good stuff, right? Just the best of the best in these colors. So let's take a look at type creature damage. Trample. So we're looking for cards that have evasion, that do something on combat damage. Okay. So Belligerent Guest is a great one. We can pump this up to a 6-power trampler, make a blood token. We might be able to do it once or twice. This would be sick. Yeah, I think we have to play that. This might be the only home I've found for Rapacious ones so far. Yeah, and Charles, you're making a great point. Like, I don't even know if it's worth protecting Orfeo past 1. And I don't even think Orfeo is like a huge target for removal in this deck. You probably just kill the creature that they're pumping. You might kill Orfeo, but Orfeo itself is like a 2/4. He swings as a 4/4 on his own. But I think, like, 1, Orfeo is probably not going to be a target for removal that often. And 2, it's not really like a purely Orfeo deck. It's a JUND deck with Orfeo in the command zone, So, this is crazy. Enters the battlefield, 2 damage to target opponent. Yeah, we don't need any of that. What about Menace? Let's see. Menace, whenever it becomes... Okay, yep, nope, that doesn't work. I don't think we're going to find anything with flying, but we can always check. Wow, okay, maybe there's something here. Whenever it deals combat damage is what we're looking for. Yeah, Fang Dragon actually would be a great card for this deck because it is a sweeper that also is a threat. Another thing to hit off Throne of the Dead 3, it flies, so it has evasion, so we can double it up to 12 power. This is actually quite good in this deck. And then we're looking for things that do things on combat damage that work with the deck. Something along the lines of none of the stuff here. Okay, so flying is not in the books there. What about Intimidate and Fear? Blind Zealot. This one doesn't work because you have to sacrifice it right away. So not in love with that. We do have some of like, well, see that, no, we don't like that. We don't like that. What about Fear? What about Fear? Nothing with Fear. Okay, cool. Shinnin of Life's Roar is a card in our deck. I think you might have soul read me there, Charles. We've got it right here. This is going to be a powerful card. We're going to be able to reuse this in some cases with some of our Reaping the Graves type stuff. Let's see if we can clean this up a little bit. We've got enchantments, pingers. I don't think Drannith Stinger is going to make the cut, but remind me if we do get back to that to go for it. This is going to be what did I just do? Arcane Signet, get back in here. There we go. And then we need O Mill, O Return, O Hand, O Graveyard. Like that. And make a slight adjustment here, chat. There we go. There we go. Okay. So we're looking for Another Chance, and we're looking for Unseal the Necropolis. Dig Up the Body is an option too. I don't really love using Dig Up the Body in this deck because we're not playing like elves. If we played elves, then we could just sacrifice one of our mana dorks. but we have like meaningful threats. We don't really, it's like artifact, 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 big threat, or like artifact, artifact, big threat. Actually, wait a second. Was there Druidic Ritual? 1 land and 1 creature. So it's not an instant. Alex says if we're if we are artifacting, is Krark-Clan Shaman something we're interested in? Krark-Clan Shaman might be, because if we hit it off Throne of the Dead 3, it's pretty devastating. Krark-Clan Shaman here, sacrifice an artifact. It usually kills itself, but if you forge it or if you throne it, you're gonna make something really gross. And then we're also gonna want Crypt Rats, I think, for the same reason. Crypt Rats is never gonna be a lot. It's going to be like 1 or 2 damage, but that's really still... This is like a game-ending card to hit off Throne of the Dead 3, and we want those in the deck. And our mana is going to be pretty good anyways. Undertaker might be gas. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Let's see. So, discard a card from your hand, return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. So turn like a mana rock or a land into a threat. Let's put it in the sideboard. I'm open to it. That's pretty good. Yeah. If we're drawing well, then we don't need it. And if we're drawing poorly, if we're drawing well, we don't want it. So we just don't use it, I guess, because we're going to like the cards in our hand then. And if we're doing poorly, so it's kind of a card that works better when you draw bad, right? Like, it's kind of interesting. Okay, these ones here are going to go into recursion and reanimation. Ugh. Okay. Recursion and reanimation, another chance. There's got to be something else out there that mills while also giving us stuff. Can you guys think of anything that would do a little self-milling while also giving us like more than 1 card? Like Grapple with the Past and Corpse Churn and all that stuff, they get 1 card back, but I think we'd be looking for more. Okay, these vehicles here, I don't think we need to differentiate them. They're just creatures, but these are quite nice. Thundersteel Colossus is expensive, but it has haste and trample, and it crews for 2. Same thing with Renegade Freighter. So these are kind of like, they're creatures that are undercosted, that we just don't attack with Mr. Orfeo, and we crew these. So they're going to be really good. So there, and then we're going to remove this tag because they're basically just creatures. Wasteful Harvest. That one doesn't get more than 1 thing. I think that just gets 1. It just gets 1 permanent back. Dredge is the most JUND thing you can do. I don't know if we're in the business of dredging, because genuinely I don't like dredge. I think that it's a mechanic that frequently just like puts things in the graveyard that I don't want there. So, okay, so now we're gonna have to fix our removal a little bit here too. We've got Rancor, Cranial Plating, Teamer Battle Rage. The best protection spells, I think there might be a couple more, like Avoid Fate could go in here. And then, because we are an artifact deck, we can play Galvanic Blast. And we will probably also play... I mean, the Master's Rebuke type cards, like Cosmic Hunger, are all pretty good in this deck. Although what those do, I think, when you don't want to play them if you don't have to, because what they do is they open up the opportunity for a person to stop your removal spell by killing your creature, which feels shitty, because if they didn't actually care about your creature, but they have a removal spell, then but they care about their creature, then they'll have to kill ours, which they wouldn't normally do because we're biting it, right? So don't love that. So let's do MV2. Actually, there might be some removal we could play here too. Have to think about that a little bit. Okay, by the way, I'm very excited to play Zerta Druid in this deck. Whenever you tap it for mana, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. This is a very cool ramp creature in this deck. We're also going to get to play some really special ones like Elysian Caryatid, And I think that these ones are worth it just because they make, they're going to make 2 power or 2 mana after combat. Post combat, they're going to be tapping for 2 mana. Gray Slad. This one just mills. Mill 4 cards. As long as there are 4 more creature cards in your graveyard, it has Menace and Death Touch. Menace, Death Touch, and 8 power. Pretty sweet. This is kind of like 5 mana for a 4/1 that may not have these abilities. I don't think this makes the cut, but we will just add it. Actually, let's look at type adventure. See what kind of adventure cards there are out there for us. We have like Colossal Badger type stuff. Can't block is actually potentially good. Actually, Beanstalk Worm. Beanstalk Worm is pretty interesting here. This is kind of like a ramp card. We have a lot of tap lands, so this allows us to get 2 tap lands into play in a turn. Or no, well, maybe. Yeah. I kind of like Beanstalk Worm. I think we're going to play this. This is good. Generally, like, pretty bullish on this card. Dread Lenorm is monstrous. This is so big, but this, I don't know. It's like 7 mana. It's so expensive. We have expensive stuff in the deck. It's not to say that we don't, but it's expensive to protect. That's the only reason this card doesn't see play, is because this isn't like 2 mana. It should be like 2 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on it, give it hexproof. But instead they made it really complicated and like top heavy, so it's a 4 mana protection spell that puts 2 +1/+1 counters on it, untaps it, gives it hexproof. It's like, come on, WotC, like why is this so weird? Why was this made this way? We have Hezru. Not really what we're looking for. Yep, none of this is what we're looking for. Young Red Dragon is like kind of like a form of ramp too. Yeah, the recursion plan is sweet. Yep. Definitely good. Like cards like Ichor, Mycosynth Wellspring are going to be cool here too if we decide to run the black sacrifice cards, which we could. I think we might get taxed on slots, but we'll see. Okay, so we've got Wraths. Now let's do Krark Clan Shaman. This is also going to go under Wraths. And then we've got Wander in Death, which we could play here. We have Rites of Consumption as well. This only hits players. I'm not in love with it. We are going to play Fling, and we definitely are going to play Soulfire. Soulfire is sweet in this deck. So is Fling, so is Ram Through. Very powerful. Wander in Death is good. It might be that our card advantage is like cycling creatures, initiative, and then like recursion and reanimation stuff instead of normal draw spells. If we end up playing the cyclers, maybe Viashino Sand Sprinter. Yep, that one's a bit weird, but we could. I wonder if we're gonna want like these ramp creatures at all. If we're at 24 artifacts right now, so Cranial Plating is still good. How many cyclers do we have here? Let's see. I wonder if there's a way that I could sort by. So I could like No, I don't think there's a way I can do that. I wanted to filter for all cards that had cycling on them. So Grizzly Survivor and I think the Prickly Marmoset are not going to make the cut thus far. Alex says, I'm not high on Bolt and Galvanic Blast if I can run Victim of Night and Snuff Out. Well, we're definitely going to run Snuff Out. Victim of Night's going to be too hard on our mana. And the difference is that Bolt and Galvanic Blast both go face. And that's actually pretty good here. Winfro says, hello and Happy New Year. Yeah, you too, Winfro. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for joining us today. Charles says, why Roastmaster? That's a great question. I thought, Roastmaster in a deck with 35 plus creatures tends to be pretty good. Same with Impact Tremors. These are really efficient. Maybe we just play Impact Tremors because it's not likely to die and it's just good reach. It's so efficient, right? If this thing hits, if you get 2 hits off of this, you've dealt 6 damage to the table, and you're probably going to get more. You're probably going to get like 3 or 4 triggers off of it, which means it's like 2 mana for 12 damage. Every trigger is 3 to the table if 90 points life total. So, so maybe we cut Witty Roastmaster for now. Crashing Drawbridge, good. Ornithopter of Paradise is probably very good here too. It's flying. Cranial Plating works great on it. It's an artifact. Makes mana of any color. I think it's where we want to be. Jewel Thief. I think this is actually a really important part of the deck too. O, enter, type creature, O, treasure. Let's see how many of these we have and if they're any good. Because Jewel Thief is amazing. Y'all know that. Because these are going to fix our mana. Without Night Soil or tokens, it seems meh. I think it isn't. And the reason being is that Witty Roastmaster, even though it doesn't attack very well, it's basically unblockable. And I think that that's, even though, and Alex, even though we are going tall, our deck is like mostly creatures, right? It's like, we're at 46 right now. And we're going to take that down a notch for sure. That'll be in the 30s by the time we're done. Okay, Beanstalk Worm is going to go under ramp. I think this is going to be great. I think Beanstalk Worm is going to slay in this deck. Rapacious One seems great. Slaughterhorn. I think Fang Dragon wants to be in here. We'll do that just because it's just a good creature to suit up. Jewel Thief is the most insane 3-mana card ever. How did that cram so much stuff into it? Yeah, I wish that Jewel Thief was the pattern of Jewel Thief was replicated more frequently, because Jewel Thief is what I want commons to look like. I want commons to be more interesting than bears. And I think that people playing draft want that too. So I think Jewel Thief was very popular because it was just a good card in the format, in its draft format. It's a great card in cPDH. It's just a lot of green decks don't play it. They don't really want it, actually. But here, it's like fixing our mana. It's so good. Okay. What else do we want here? Let's do a little bit of pruning. We're not going to be doing Putrid Imp or Blood Mad Vampire, Cabal Initiate. Cloak of the Bat is really good in this deck too. Haste and Flying, I think, is probably where we want to be. Similar to Haunted Cloak. So let's get that back in the deck. Got that. Dranith Stinger. Okay, so what do we think about the impulses? The Reckless Impulse Ren's Resolve cards might be a bit troublesome here because of how expensive our spells are. Isn't that right? We're going to add Snuff Out here. I think Snuff Out's a little weird because we don't have like lots of ways to offset the life loss, but yeah, we punch hard in the late game, so I think we definitely want Return to Nature. It's just like one of the better like modal. It's like Graveyard Hate. It's also Disenchant at the same time. Yep. Hard with Cyclers too. Yeah, with the Cyclers, we don't really want them there either if we just want to draw cards. We could play Oubliette, not in love with it, but what we do want is the Impetus cards. The Impetus cards are going to be so good here. So let's just talk a little bit about Impetus. And actually, this should have been in the presentation too, because this is another one of those cyclers, or no, sorry, another one of the cycles where you get more of them. Now, the catch is that Predatory Impetus is borderline. This card is huge value, right? You're basically making, I mean, all the Impetus cards at their base turn your opponent's cards into threats that your opponents have to deal with, which is great. So that nobody ever gets confused about who they should be attacking. And this one's cool because it's going to turn their creature into the Abyss. If they kill it, then we got a 2-for-1. That's the way these Impetus cards work. Unfortunately here, I think that, and I do rank them as removal, by the way. Let's see if we can find the other one here. Shiny Impetus is ramp as well. We've got too many tags here. Shiny Impetus is removal and ramp. Yep, cool. Alex says they said commons were going to be more modal in play boosters. Any thought on that? I think that's great. Yeah, there's an article that I've been meaning to read deeper into about the restructuring of things and what that means for cPDH. Charles says I just run the red one if that at all. Pilfer is just, let's see, is more for less. Right, but Pilfer is only one thing. It's just a creature that makes treasure. Whereas Shiny Impetus, which I know you like that one, and I do too. I love that card. But Parasitic Impetus is also amazing. The Impetus cards in general are very, very, very good. I think this one's not going to make the cut, although +3/+3 on one of our creatures is pretty sweet. Like, these work on our own creatures as well. We'll leave it in the sideboard for now. Where is Parasitic Impetus? What am I missing? Oh, there it is. It's there. Okay. We've got Rancor. We've got the Protection Suite. I don't think we go much above that. And then we're going to cut the Pitiless Vizier. We're going to cut... I think the Scophos Reaver is actually still good here, even though like we're not going to Madness it out. It attacks as a 4-power creature for 3 mana, and I think that's worth it. We're not blocking in this deck a whole lot. Like, you know, we can block because we're not always going to have haste, but we're going to cut Prickly Marmoset. We're going to cut Grizzly Survivor. We're going to keep Belligerent Guest. I really like this as a 3-power trampler. It's going to attack for 6. It's going to create a blood token a couple of times, maybe only once. Then we have Falconwrath Celebrants, which was here for the blood tokens. It's quite good. The Menace is strong. The ETB is great. 2 blood tokens is definitely like fabulous. It's great off Throne of the Dead 3. I definitely like that. Owlbear, great. Quakefoot Cyclops, probably going to go to the sideboard. Street Wraith is good. It is double black. Swamp Walk isn't going to be super reliable evasion. And I think that the life loss on it doesn't justify this card's inclusion usually. But it does work really good with Reaping the Graves. And it does work nicely with like another chance in Unseal the Necropolis because you can just like get it and then draw another card. So we need Dread Return in here. Dread Return is really good. And in fact, there's another one. There's another Summon Undead. Might be worth it because it does a little bit of milling too, but it's 5 mana for Reanimate's just dog shit. It's so bad. I don't think we're going to go as deep into these land cyclers as I've currently gone. Like this one regenerates over and over again, but again, it's like 2 mana to cycle it. We'd rather play 2 mana RHOX. We are going to play Krosan Tusker because Krosan Tusker is just a really, really efficient card to be like looping with these effects. I think it's really good. Is this a list that would run Bloodfire Infusion, or is that more of a synergistic build? We already have Crypt Rats. Bloodfire Infusion is a great ask. Bloodfire Infusion is a 3 mana enchantment that you can sack the creature to deal damage equal to its power to all the creatures. Probably not, because it kills our stuff. It's going to kill all of our things, probably. Yeah, that would be my answer. Actually, you know, this deck, quite frankly, could just run both. Like this deck could run amazing control spells. I wonder if like we want to just be playing more sweepers instead of targeted removal. So like if we played like Drown in Sorrow, Fiery Cannonade doesn't really kill a lot of our stuff. It does kill Zertaw Druid and some of our ramp creatures. But in that case, then we would just decide whether we wanted to play these ramp creatures. We could always just... Because these are interesting. They do make 2 mana, and they do make mana of any color in the Elysian Caryatid's case. But they come into play tapped. Artifacts don't. Most of them. Star Compass does. I don't know. What do you guys think? Should we cut all of these creatures for, like, all of these ramp creatures here for just artifact rocks? It kind of makes sense. Maybe we keep Ornithopter because it's a lot of the things we want. It's like a Star Compass that can also attack. And then we could run, like, Fiery Cannonade and Breath Weapon instead of, like, Fang Dragon. I kind of like that. I like the idea that we'd be able to play, like, all this all this like all these sweepers and not and be able to like clear out blockers, but also like this is our tool for, and I think that's better than Krark-Clan Shaman and Fang Dragon. I think Fang Dragon's maybe on the edge. Drownstar is a sorcery. Yeah, and I'm even wondering like how much do we want to be playing like double black pip stuff? We're probably going to be a pretty clean 30-30-30 when it comes to split on mana. I see the advantage with Krark-Clan Shaman. I don't super love this card usually. Like in 60 card, it facilitates some pretty powerful stuff, but yeah. Oh, it lowers our power. Yeah. Yeah. We don't want to do that. That's true. Crypt Rats is, I think, a win here. I see why we would want all of these here. Let's just leave these and let that sort of simmer for a second and we can kind of think about it. We're also going to be playing Greater Tanuki, which I'm pumped about. Let's do O channel and see what we got for channeling. We have the Iron Hoof Boar, which is going to be great. +3/+1 and trample is going to mess some people up pretty badly. It's also haste and trample. This is such a good card for this deck. Yeah, super cool. That's one angry ass pig. Target creature gains haste, fear. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 2 creatures you control. Yeah, none of these are very good. There is, however, Dirge of Dread is a really interesting card for this deck because it makes all of our stuff basically unblockable. It also cycles to make one thing unblockable. This is a really good card that probably should see more play, but I just haven't really found the home for it yet. We'll put it in the sideboard. Okay. All right, so we've got a decent amount of removal already. Terminate. This is like just some of the better removal spells. Ram Through is going to end somebody's life for sure. Fling and Soul's Fire are not really, they are removal, but we need to have more to inflate this because these are removal spells, but they're kind of like last ditch removal spells. We want to use them to kill people. Mycosynth Wellspring might not make the cut, and neither will Ichor Wellspring if that's the case. And then Blood Fountain as well, and Blood Fountain's good, but I think we can lose these for now, and we'll add them back in if we want to add that package of like sack draw black stuff, which we might have room for. We'll see. Haunted Cloak, definitely. Yeah, we don't want 15 ramp. That's a little excessive. Yeah. So I think my intuition is telling me that with all these good sweepers and sweepers that like the cost of us playing these sweepers is that we have to play more artifacts, which doesn't sound like a downside to me. I like Mana RHOX a lot. Let's see what Mana RHOX we have. MV equals 2, O-tag, Mana RHOX. And let's see what other artifact rocks we're missing currently. And which of them make colors of mana? Prismatic Lens. Okay, so we're kind of... Let's see what we have for Ramp. Ramp is a little bit different than Mana RHOX for the tags. Yeah, I'd love to play this cycle of cards, but I'm not sure we will. Explore. Well, and the other option too is that we play some 2 mana. So if we ramp on 2, that allows us to play Orfeo on 3. And then that opens up some plays with like 5 mana hasters, which is pretty cool. So maybe we do want something like Farseek, even Fertile Ground. I mean, might seem kind of weird to you, but I think that might make sense. Oh, do we want these? Oh, what about familiars? The familiars are all going to die to the sweepers, though. Yeah, like people are going to look at this list and be like, "Why are you not playing Goblin, and, an Archomancer?" And they might be right. But let's just see where this goes. Into the North would be another one. This is going to hit our snowlands. Nature's Lore. Yeah, so we actually have, and I like these because then, yeah, Charles, exactly. This is why we're doing it together, because there's a lot of directions you could take this deck, and and I think that it just kind of depends on what you're looking for a little bit. There's probably some better paths than others, but my intuition's saying Nature Lore, Into the North, and Farseek, because these all are really fabulous fixing. They're all going to fix our mana really well, which is great. They're going to fix our mana better than the mana dorks are. And it's at the same sorcery speed, and it's all at 2. So if we had a lot of stuff at 2, even Explore could be really good here. I'm not necessarily sold on Explore because it doesn't always work. I run the 2-mana Forest Finders and Artifact decks with Gingerbread Cabin. Yep, that makes sense. Yep, Gingerbread Cabin's a good one. Fertile Ground. I mean, this is kind of the same thing, right? It's the same thing as like Farseek or... Yeah, it's just another 2-mana. And this is actually untapped. This is kind of like a mana rock. It's the same thing. Because we already have 24 artifacts in the deck. So we don't need to... Like, these ones don't need to be artifacts. I think we're going to cut the Caryatid. Caryatid's really good. It does make 2 mana of any one color. There's also like Humble Naturalist, which is a 1/3. So it doesn't die to the sweepers. And it makes mana of any color, but it only casts creature spells. We are mostly a creature spell deck, so that is good. Into the North is going to be great. We might need to play a few more duels just to make sure that we have something to find. What else? Nature's Lore is forest specific as well, so there might need to be a few extra forest ones. Overgrown Battlements is a great card too. Ooh, Prize Fight's going to be sweet here too, potentially. Any land that your opponent could make the mana. That's funny. Rampant Growth. Rampant Growth is also reasonable. So is Sakura Tribe Elder. They're basically the same thing. 3 visits if we don't already have it. I believe we do have 3 visits, but maybe not. Maybe it's coming up here. Nope, there it is. Good call, good call. I love Ulvenwald Captive. This is exactly what this deck would like to have. Big mana deck, But it's a 1/2, so it dies to our sweepers. I think the sweepers are actually like one of the really good reasons to play this. Because you've got all these thick creatures that just don't die when you sweep the board. And sweeping the board makes the blockers go away, which is really good. So we're going to drop the Whisperer of the Wilds, add that to the sideboard. We're going to drop our Elysian Caryatid into the sideboard. Oh my god, I'm so congested. Sigmar, save this ravaged body, as Turin would say. Okay, Zertod Druid. This one is really good. This one might be worth. It's like it doesn't produce any color of mana. So it's like a bad mana dork. It's a 2-mana mana dork. But it's kind of an unblockable 3-power creature. At the same time. I don't know. Seems sick. Okay, so back to this 116. Let's go Sakura Tribe Elder. And then for ramp, maybe... do we get everything? Return to nature. Yeah, okay. Pingers. Okay, so that's 20 pieces of ramp. That's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of ramp. We don't need that much. It dies to everything. Yeah, I don't know. Let's just not complicate our lives, and we'll just move on. Doctor Who. Let's see, where's a cheap one? These are all expensive. Okay. I try to make my decks as cheap as possible because these are ultimately, this is like a resource for the community, and I want people to see how cheap this format is. So Elder comes back with our recursion spells. Good point. Yeah, so we could have like an early turn where we, yeah, that's sweet. I definitely like it. 115 cards. We're actually not that far off right now. 34 lands. We need to go. 34 is fine. With this much ramp, it's totally fine. Jewel Thief, Shiny Impetus, Beanstalk Worm. I wonder if Beanstalk Worm is kind of like Owlbear in a way, where it's like 2 cards in one. Yeah, I think we definitely don't want this many. We don't want that many. So then what would it be? Rampant Growth is probably the worst of them. This comes into play untapped. This comes into play tapped. Yeah, so in a way, well, and frankly, all of these 2-mana ramp spells, and also we have to keep in mind, Krosan Tusker is not ramp. That's actually a lie. Greater Tanuki is. Greater Tanuki actually puts that land into the battlefield while being a threat. So this is not actually as many as it looks. This right here probably ends up being ramp. This is a one-time ramp. So it's really 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and Beanstalk Worm. Maybe this is just like a little too much. Oh, we also have, where was Explore? Didn't we put Explore in here? Oh, we didn't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're not playing Tadiova. That's right. But I think we are. It is a big mana deck. 37 creatures. I think Crop Rotation would be really good here too. If we don't like, well, but that's actually not true. If we don't like Explore, we might still like Beanstalk, because Beanstalk is the same thing, except instead of drawing a card, you have a 5-mana 5/4, which is pretty cool. But it's also like the only one of these that isn't like guaranteed to work. So I don't know. And the other thing is, because we're playing land cyclers, these creature cyclers here, creature cyclers, it reduces our land count a little bit because these are not lands. We could cycle and then cycle. We could like draw one of those, cycle it, and then do something. But yeah. Okay. I still think Impact Tremors is going to be extraordinarily efficient, but maybe it's not exactly what we're trying to do. It's a terrible top deck. Most cards aren't in your opening hand. So I'm actually like happy to have cards in my deck that are like for later in the game. This one's not for later in the game. It's a very good card, but not right for here. Shinnin of Life's Roar is interesting. So this is going to be a 4-mana unblockable. Basically, you could get the same thing with Dirge of the Dead. You could also wipe somebody's board. This is a kind of like a Wrath. So many Wraths. This is probably we're gonna have to cut from this. This is definitely too many. We could also cut Study Hall. I think Study Hall can be cut for type Forest. We want one more. Yeah, Haunted Mire probably. And Wooded Ridgeline. The forests are important because we have a couple of more ramp cards that look for these. So let's just do Wooded Ridgeline for now. What are our colors looking like? Yeah, okay, so we want those two. What else? Desert Ceradon probably doesn't make the cut. This is pretty bad. Horror of the Broken Lands. Yeah, so I see what you're saying, Alex, about return to nature. Um, I don't know if I care. I think return to nature is very good. It doesn't hit graveyards very hard, but it is a card that can hit graveyards, and it does so pretty cheaply um, while doing other things. I really value the modality. Oh yeah, we don't need feed the swarm. That's a good point. You like the cyclers. Oh, Street Wraith can come out, I think. Yeah, Street Wraith can come out. Yeah. So what are our options for like 2 mana draw? Like O tag draw? MV equals 2? Like what are our other options? Yeah, I mean the simplest answer would be to go into the black draw package, which would be Deadly Dispute, Reckoner's Bargain, Fanatical Offering is actually pretty good because it does buff our creature up in some cases. Those three, and then also play Mycosynth Wellspring, Ichor Wellspring, Arkham's Astrolabe, which we already have, things like that. Because our creatures will get targeted. They will get removed. Cycling does have a lot of synergy, but we also just have a lot of creatures in the deck too. Atrax's Fall over Freed. I know what you're talking about with Atrax's Fall. I don't think so. Sorcery Speed. I would rather play the instant one, but it is 3 mana over Broken Bonds. Yeah, Broken Bonds. Broken Bond. Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's so many different cards you can play in this deck. Broken Wings is really good. There's one that scries now too. So okay, so maybe we're cutting too deeply to cut into these cyclers, but we have a lot of them. Okay, like let's do a count just right now. We're at 108. Oliphant, Tusker, Troll, Ironhoof Boar, Tanuki, Generous Ent, Crag Smasher Yeti, um, Monstrous Carabid. Okay, so and then Shinnet of Life's Roar. So about 10. And then we also have, there's other ones, like there's other creatures that go into the graveyard. Cyclers are 50-50 lands. That's true. So actually we do need to do a little bit of tuning here where, because we have Crag Smasher Yeti. I like this card because it does have trample. I think this is a good card. So this is we could put this in lands. Seal of Primordium. Yeah. Yep, that's also a good one. My thing is, I'm more interested in running these cards when, like, okay, so like think about it this way. So much of this format just goes away with removal, right? It is a good card for sure, but my concern is that we have other cards that we can play in those slots that not only deal with problems in play, certain kinds of problems, creature problems, while also clearing the board of creatures, which is synergistic. Whereas this is just a good card. I think that the question is between the two good cards, which is like the sweepers and removal, and Seal of Primordium. Seal of Primordium is very good against a certain subsect of decks that are doing very well right now. Fiery Cannonade notably does not destroy pirates, which is Malcolm apparently doing well these days, eating well as people play their mid-range decks with like 5 pieces of removal in it. Do we want Monarch? Oh boy. These two creatures are great. Entourage of Trest being an 8 power creature just meets the criteria. This is kind of like an owlbear that draws us more cards. Crimson Fleet Commodore, 10 power trampler, easy. Yeah, for sure. We want these. Crown Hunter Hireling, no. And Thorn of the Black Rose, probably not. Maybe. Thorn of the Black Rose is good. It's just not a threat. And I think we do want our stuff to be threats. We don't like cards that aren't like, yeah, that aren't as threatening as we need them to be. Chain Devil is a single edict here. God, this deck would slay for a Flame Tongue Kavu, right? God, we need that card. Removal type creature. All right. It's not giving it to us. So what's the new... There's a new Cyclops card. There are some. Yeah, Jund midrange is what we are. Monarch, I think, is very good. It's not always good. Nothing ever is always good. Yeah. No, I think that's a good call. I think we definitely... The Crimson Fleet Commodore in particular is just a great attacker in this deck. And it's going to convert to a lot of damage. Owlbear, enter type creature, draw. I want to see all the creatures that draw us card when they ETB. IDK, ETB draw card is always good. Yeah, it is. Yep. That's true. Yeah, that's fair. But it depends on the deck, right? Famished Foragers is kind of interesting. This is a card that tends to be pretty good in like high tempo aggressive decks because you do this post combat. So post combat, somebody took damage, you play this for 4 and you make 3 red and then you cast another spell. And Crimson Fleet is a pirate. This is right. And then it becomes a looting engine. Do you think this is good enough? It's kind of nice. Used to have this in here when we were doing looting stuff, but that's not part of the game plan anymore. There's also Excavating Anurid, which has Vigilance. You gotta sack a land to do it as well. Not great. Kavu Climber is just like so embarrassed to be in the presence of this Chad. Owlbear is just so thick and Kavu Climber is just so mid. It's unfortunate. There's also like Phyrexian Gargantua, which is pretty good. Oh, another question. Oh, Serulf's Packmate is pretty good in this deck. I really like this card. Is RRR easy for us to spend? That's the reason why I'm like, you know. But Serulf's Packmate is kind of like Owlbear. This is definitely the kind of deck where you just want all of your creatures to draw cards. Or to provide some sort of value. I think Packmate is good enough, even though it's not that big. It's going to attack for 6 if we double the power, which is good. We're really looking for Trample, though. Trample is just such a good bit of text in here. Okay, so now what do we have that could potentially go? Trailblazer's Torch is... Initiative is really good. Initiative is just really, really good. Sometimes a Trailblazer's Torch does absolutely nothing outside of give you the initiative. Sometimes you put it on like a Death Touch creature or something small and it does a lot more. I think we want it. Let's see, do we have... And then we have Tuk Tuk Rebel Fort, Scophos Reaver, Renegade Freighter, Jewel Thief. All those good. For ramp, how are we doing here? 16 ramp. It's a lot. I think we could do less. So this one only gets forests, and they can be put into play untapped. This can get forests and put them to play untapped. This only gets snowlands, but it can get black mana. Well, these can too. Maybe Fertile Ground is actually really good. Farseek puts it into play tapped. So maybe, like, how green are we? We're a little bit more green than we are the other things. So I'm trying to think about what do we cut then? Because it's going to be some of these Wraths, right? Maybe Fang Dragon just isn't good enough. The other sweepers are just better, and it is a good threat, but it's like also dies to bolt. So let's put it in the sideboard. Cart Clan Shaman. I don't love the idea of sacking our RHOX to Cart Clan Shaman, so I think we're going to cut that. Then Breath Weapon, Crypt Rats, Fire Cannonade, Pestilence, and Shinnin. I think this is a good package here. Oh, we could be playing the other backup, Gloomfang Mauler. Gloomfang Mauler is another one of those creatures that's pretty expensive, but it buffs something up and it gives it menace, and it can be reanimated. Hey, what's up? We have Waz Zagralnia. Waz Zagralnia. Wow. I probably shouldn't have tried pronouncing that name, but welcome to the chat. Hello, guys. Papa Popper, you are the best. Wow. That's really sweet of you. Thank you. I always love hearing that. I'm a little bit sick today. I didn't sleep well last night, so it feels nice hearing that. Appreciate you. Shred memory to find cranial. I don't think we're in the business of doing that. And in fact, most of the time, I don't find myself wanting to search for cranial. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So sometimes I do want to look for it. I want to look for it, but it's expensive to like look for it and then play it. It's 6 mana. That's so much. I like to just draw it. Don't you guys just like to draw your best cards? Yeah, that's me. I like drawing the best cards. Just draw good cards. Good players draw good cards. Falconwrath Celebrants. How do we feel about this? This one is ETB 2 blood tokens. We don't have any discard synergies. However, we do. I mean, so cranial is just good here. But like, we're not shredding for it. That's what I'm saying. Hey, what's up, Elgen? Good to see you. Welcome to the chat. I think it is a cranial plating deck. Like, this is a great home for cranial plating. But yeah, I think we do want it. I think we do want it. I just don't think we're going to tutor for it. I think we need to cut down on ramp a little bit. We need to decide on these threats. We're 35 creatures, which is great. We're probably going to get down to 30 by the time we're done, which is a great number. That's a lot. Hello, Polish is not easiest language to pronounce by English speakers. Oh, sure. See, I saw the SZ in your name, and I figured you were from Poland. So, Czech. Pass on Falconwrath, I mean. Oh, pass on Falconwrath. Did somebody recommend Falconwrath? Oh, yeah. Sorry. I asked you guys to give me feedback on Celebrants, and you gave it, so thank you. Thank you, Elgen. Good to see you. Falconwrath Celebrants is also menacing, though. So I think I might be into it. Monstrous Carabid stays. We did not keep the Elgen, how do you search for common only cards? Well, in this case here, when you go to settings when you're making your deck, you're going to go in and click format, Pauper EDH. And what this will do is only search for cards that are legal in Pauper EDH. Well, most people don't call it Pauper EDH. It's PDH or cPDH. But regardless, or Pauper Commander. But this is the one you'll select. And then this will only search for cards that are legal in the format. Because we don't use the same ban list as Pauper. If you were to go to Pauper, for example, the cranial plating would be banned. Because it is banned. It is a great tutor. It's also a lot of black mana, though. This commander makes such a Timmy. Yeah, no, this is definitely, there's strong Timmy energy here for sure. Yeah, Elgen, for sure. If you watch a lot of these streams, you'll learn a lot about Moxfield. I'm pretty good with it. So you can also do some cool stuff, Elgen, like O is Oracle text. So you could say O draw, O enter. So we're looking for a creature that, or a card that draws when it enters the battlefield. And we want it to be a creature with mana value less than or equal to 3. Or let's do 5. Less than or equal to 5. Like that. Right? And look at that. We got 40 results. So this is a very powerful tool. You can go in here and do tips. And this will take you to the syntax guide right here. And this is great. It's a little bit of coding. It's a really, really awesome way to find stuff. Okay, sorry, back to the questions here. When searching on Scryfall, do RC if you're on Scryfall. Yep, so you can go rarity common like that. That's a great way to do it. Or you can do format PDH like that. Or, you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, we're the Scryfall wizard up in here. Yeah, one of these days I got to see if I can get them as a sponsor. Or not Scryfall, sorry, but Moxfield. Because Moxfield uses Scryfall's API. So, Charles says, my vote is all in on the Graveyard Cycler Discard Reanimator. Well, good. I'm glad this is helpful for you, Elgen. Yeah, and yeah, keep watching. You'll learn lots more. Okay, so yeah, so you like the cycling stuff. Do we like it more? Like Charles, tell me what you like it more than, because we can like it, but we also have to figure out what we're going to cut. Right now, this is more than we need. So maybe we want to cut some of these. My intuition would be Architect is not better, Alex. It's all, actually, let's put it this way. Truly, it is subjective. I think Moxfield is fabulous. Moxfield is the reason why this channel exists. Like being able to play test cards, you know, all this stuff. This is game changer, right? And I know you can do that on Architect too, but Moxfield feels very intuitive, and they're very responsive on feedback. So, and it's great because as people are kind of coalescing around Moxfield, it makes it very interoperable. So, like this compare function is insane. Being able to like compare this to any other deck in your collection or somebody else's deck to a deck in your collection. By the way, I'm really impressed on how this the software is really doing a good job with my with the green screening. I'm kind of surprised. It wasn't working that great last time. So cut the protection. Man, you crazy. Seems weird to not play some. And this is a fine number. Best one being Vines of Vastwood, and then these two. Oh, glad to hear that, Erosium. Thank you. It was really funny when I sat down to stream today and I was looking at OBS, and I was like, I kind of had to scramble to like get some things figured out. And then when I looked at my screen and it was using the green screen, it looked way, way better than it did the last time. Because the last time I did it, I was like, that looks awful. I will not stream with that. I am not going to stream with that. But this looks good, and I'm glad you guys like it. It really helps me a lot because there's a lot of this interface stuff that I don't have to do. There's a lot of screwy shit that you have to do to make things fit. So it's bold, but I think we're all in one turn. Yeah, so okay, I think what it is we need to be probably a bit diligent about our sweepers. Shinnin of Life's Roar is like cut lands. Well, you know, you're not entirely wrong, Elgen. Alex says, need to scoot. I'll catch you later and finish the VOD later. Awesome. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you. Oh, I just lost my chat. One sec here. Docs, chat. There we go. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Erosium. And for those of you, if you are enjoying the content right now and you want to support me financially, you can go to patreon.com/common connoisseurs, and you can actually get into the supporters only section of the Discord for as little as $2 a month. So that's a great way to help me put food on the table and pay my rent. Those are good things to do. So, okay, and you can find the link in the description below. We're gonna cut some ramp. We don't need 16. My thought is like, okay, I really want to play Greater Tanuki, but I have to say that Greater Tanuki is like another threat in a deck full of threats. So like, is it just the worst ramp spell here? And it does have trample. It's a 6/5 trample. It's like really good. And the 2-mana ramp is really nice because in this deck, if we go 2-mana ramp, then we can play Orfeo, probably play Orfeo on 3 quite often, which is really strong. Orfeo on 3, you know, maybe we play like a 5-power creature, like a initiative creature, or an owlbear or a carabid, celebrants, monarch. And then like on 5, then we're swinging for quite a bit of damage, and then we can redeploy a threat. I like that quite a lot. We have 36 lands, but we really don't, because Crag Smasher Yeti and Gloomfang Mauler are both 2-mana cyclers. So they're like 1 land. So this is like 35 lands, and then we have 3 1-mana cyclers, which is good. And with all this ramp, like, this is going to be fine. Yeah, this is good. Ironhoof Boar, we can't cut this in a million years. Finclade Fugitives could go. This is not important anymore. This card was here when we were doing a lot of discarding, when I had like Faithless Looting and stuff like that to turn on Madness cards, but we don't have that anymore. So it is a big creature that can't be blocked very easily, and the Encore is insane, but it doesn't go into the graveyard, which is where we want that card, so we can cut it. We have the Thundersteel Colossus. It's possible this is too cute. It slays, though. This card hits for 14. 14 with trample. I feel like we need to play this card. Like, we need to test it at the very least. Why is this? Oh, Croson Tusker. What the heck is up with the mana cost here? It's 7. Why is Oliphant rated as 6 mana? That's weird. Our curve, thick, very thick. We could take Wander and Death out. I like Wander and Death a lot. Mauler is really good. You know this gives menace to the creature you grant it to, right? And +2. It's actually, so it's +4/+4 and menace, because if we menace the creature and then double it, it's 4 power. But it's 7 mana. It's 7 mana. But, hear me out. Cycle Gloomfang Mauler, Dread Return it. Very sick. Ooh, Molten Monstrosity. Almost missed it. Erosium, that is a great call. Absolutely what we want in this deck. This is amazing. Lloyd, welcome to the chat. Good to see you here. I love Thundersteel Colossus. Keep it. Yeah, that's what we like. Big Timmy energy. I'm not a Timmy, but I respect the Timmies, and I think that there's a lot to be said for it in this format because combat damage actually matters here. A lot. Molten Monstrosity is going to be sick. If we had the smallest creature that we have has 3 power. If we double its power to 6, this is a 2-mana 5/5 trample. Okay, here's another thing I want to talk about. If we're trying to do this graveyard recursion thing, like a small package of it, are we really that stoked about Gurmag Angler and Hooting Mandrills? Like, what is going into the graveyard? Ramp? Ramp goes into the graveyard. Removal goes into the graveyard. We don't have, like, draw spells, really. We have Night's Whisper. I don't know that these fit anymore. These ones fit really nicely in the discarding version of this. So the original version of Mr. Orfeo that I had was using blood tokens, faithless looting, hell mongrel, cabal initiate, putrid imp type stuff to facilitate madness. And that's not what we're doing anymore. Our Polish friend here. Sorry, I'm gonna try not to pronounce that name because I'm gonna butcher it. Ryan, I believe that Mr. Orfeo is like Domek in the format, but your twist on this builds or streaming here is like fresh master chef's touch on well-known Italian pasta. Please chat. JUND is not. Thank you. Well, and actually, you said master chef. We need to look at these. Tavern Brawler is fucked up in this deck. There's so much expensive shit you could hit. Oh my god. So if we were to keep one of those creatures, we'd probably keep Hooting Mandrills because the trample is just so good. We aren't going to play these because this is better when we're like lots and lots of creatures. And Tavern Brawler, though. Is this going to make people kill our commander? like Mr. Orfeo, flip Altasaur. You know? Flip Altasaur. I mean, if we flip Altasaur, our commander becomes 9 power. And then we double something else's power. The problem is, you got to think about it this way. Buffing up Mr. Orfeo is kind of like bad. Because if people kill Mr. Orfeo before combat, so say it happens, right? So we imagine that we get Tavern Brawler on 3, Mr. Orfeo on 4, on 5 we play some big threat or something like that that we flipped off the top. Tavern Brawler is going to make Mr. Orfeo huge. Someone will kill Mr. Orfeo, and then we don't get our combat trigger. The best thing is when Mr. Orfeo isn't a threat, but he makes other things a threat, which is cognitive dissonance for our opponents. They have to decide whether they kill the thing that's making our stuff bigger or the things themselves. And if they kill Mr. Orfeo, we're like, fine, I have an Owlbear, an Altasaur, a boarding party, like whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It's like, so I don't think Tavern Brawler is good game theory. Okay? Like, it looks good, but it's going to make people kill our commander and deny us the doubling of the power. And I think that's why we're not going to play it. If it granted evasion, maybe it would make sense. It is card advantage, but vote for Brawler. We want to keep our creatures. We want to keep our other creatures problem. The problem, not Mr. Orfeo, because this gives this creature that ability, and then the other ones aren't worth it. But we'll put it in the sideboard just to kind of keep it in mind. Yeah, we want to make our other creatures the problem, not Mr. Orfeo. That's exactly right. Oh my god, Molten Monstrosity was such a good call. Man, if we were doing more of the self-mill thing, we could even do cost less type creature. Then we could also play bargain. No, I don't think we care about that. Igneous Elemental is a good one. The one I'm looking for, though, is Writhing Necromass. Yeah. This one has not been a very amazing card. It's just hard to get enough creatures in your deck. Like, it's really good in like, Conrad, I think. Conrad's sweet. Okay. So we still got to cut 9 cards, though. And my progress, our progress here collectively is slow, chat. We've entered the pain cave, where it is difficult to make cuts. Chain Devil. I feel like because we're in JUND, we want this. So, yeah. It's got to come out of ramp. We got to cut, like, 3 of these. So let's do Sakura Tribe, Elder. Being able to reuse it is nice, but reusing it... That is pretty nice. Maybe we cut like into the north. Or Farseek. This one can only get snow. This one can get all of them. So yeah, into the north goes. I like that 3 visits and Nature's Lore can just put them onto play untapped. Cut Impetus. Charles, my friend. You never cut the Impetus. Impetus is so... These cards are so stupid. They're like, you put them on your opponent's creatures, and then your other opponents kill your opponent's creatures. So it's like a 2-for-1. I spend 1 card, I make their... And here's the other thing. And I know you're trying to be helpful, so no shade. But like Shiny Impetus and Parasitic Impetus make like Dargo a 2-shot. So they have to kill it. And then they don't have their Dargo. And in the meantime, they're like pushing damage on the table, which is exactly what we want. It's a lot of what we want. So I think we'll keep it for now. We don't have like a ton of draw, but the draw spells we do have are like repeat. They're Initiative, they're Monarch. So I think that that's good. Maybe Sirwolf's Packmate doesn't make the cut. Yeah, Packmate might not make the cut. We could even cut things like Scophos Reaver, because if we think about our curve kind of looks like 2-mana Rock into turn 3 Orfeo into turn 4 Threat, right? Although Mr. Orfeo is kind of better when you have a creature in play already, because it's kind of like haste, right? You just like, you go to combat and then it works. And Tanuki makes an enemy. I just think that the game theory on these Impetus cards is too strong. They're too good. And we don't have any life gain, so Parasitic Impetus is important. The only thing is we are like low on removal. This is not like the traditional mid-range that I'm used to building. We have a lot of Wraths. 15, so 16 pieces of interaction. Along with 4 pieces of protection. Vines also interaction. Gloomfang Mauler could probably come out. It's really good in this deck. Monstrous Carabid could come out. We don't have there really aren't any like there's not a lot of colorless 1-mana cyclers. I think we need to cut the Carabid. Toil of Renown? Huh. Yeah, that's sweet. That's a cool card. I don't think we're going to be playing it in this deck. Oh no, have we forgotten something? Uh-oh, chat. Uh-oh. Oh god, the rabbit hole. I mean, yeah, like giving creatures haste. Stilt Strider is what I'm talking about. Stilt Strider is a good card. 5-mana, 5/4 with reach, I want to say, that grants a creature stickers. Boarding Party has no evasion even though it replaces itself. Ironhoof Boar is modal but doesn't replace itself. Those are my vote cuts. Okay, yeah, we'll consider that. Prowess is only going to be okay. I think this is it's a sticker sheet. Outlast is kind of interesting because Mr. Orfeo doesn't attack, right? So it just makes him really big. But again, we don't want Orfeo to be big. Haste, not that great. This is pretty good. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, exile target creature you control and then return it to the battlefield. Oh, but it has to be your commander. Yeah, okay, so that doesn't work because Mr. Orfeo doesn't really swing. Vigilance. Nope. Trample on Mr. Orfeo. Nope. Whenever you cast a spell, this creature gets +X/+X, where X is the amount of generic mana spent in that spell's cost. Again, making Mr. Orfeo the threat is not what we want. I don't think this is, you need like, you need quite a few stickers to really good stickers to make it worth playing stickers. Ward 2. This is pretty interesting. Non-creature, non-land in a deck where we're mostly creatures, not that great. Spending mana to make creature spells. It's actually not that bad. Like Mr. Orfeo making mana isn't terrible. It's not premium. Switches creatures' power and toughness is pretty funny because you just double. But again, it's like it's making Orfeo the Voltron, which is not good. Heroic landfall. Yeah, no, this is not where we want to be. Okay, I'm glad that it's not. That's fine. Stickers are annoying. They're good, but they're annoying. Okay. Boarding party. No evasion. I hear that. I see that. This card is going to feel bad when it hits ramp. And it will do that some amount of the time. Tuck tuck. Do we need crashing drawbridge? It is a 0/4. This is a very thick creature. Oh, and we're going to cut Angler. And I think we're going to cut Mandrels too. Like, I think we have 24 instants and sorceries. So a quarter of our deck. I just think this is going to be hard to cast. Like, how many creatures do we need to have in the graveyard for this to be genuinely impressive? So if it was a 3 mana 4/4 trample, we'd be like, damn, that's really good, right? And that would mean 3 cards in the graveyard. That's not awful. But if they're creatures, you kind of want those. I don't love it. I think they can go. What else? We're at 5 more cuts. And these are tough ones. Arkham's Astrolabe is going to be great here. Night's Whisper is a good card. But it's not a creature. It does lose us life. Like, I'm comfortable with like not having a ton of draw in this deck because it's like Monarch and Initiative stuff. So we're going to get multiple cards off of it, right? Even if it means sharing a little bit with other people, I'm fine with that. Packmate could go. Yeah, Packmate could go. It seems like just a fine card. Most of our lands are non-snow. Nope, most of them are snow. 12, 17. We have 20 snow-covered lands. And 36. And it's actually not 36. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 31 lands and 20 of them are snow. Yeah, Boarding Party makes a little bit of sense. I actually like Crag Smasher Yeti more than Gloomfang Mauler in this case, which is rare because it has Trample. Gloomfang Mauler might be too much. Krosan Tusker also does not have evasion, also does not ramp. Yeah. A green creature with gain 10? Tell me about that. I don't think we want to do life gain super bad. Ah, yes, Krosan Druid. So life gain, and in this case, we would probably play Feed the Clan instead because we have 4 power. And in fact, we should look up Oh Ferocious and see if there's anything else here that's good. This makes it so things can't block. Yeah, Temur Battle Rage. Oh, that's pretty sweet. Fights a creature and then gives it +2/+2. Not good enough. Oh, you know what I'm forgetting right now? Yeah, like Humbler of Mortals and Stampeding Elkherd. We need this card. This gives trample to our whole team. That's genuinely disgusting. There's also this one, but you have to do this. You have to pay for that ability. And the +1/+1 isn't that good in this deck. There's another one called Mastodon, which is a 5/3. You give target creature with power 5 or greater gains trample until end of turn. Being able to give trample is nice. Humbler of Mortals doesn't have trample itself, but it can gain it if you have enchantments. We really don't. This one's just a one-time thing, but it has trample on its own, which is good. There's Crash Through, but and then there's also Formidable. Yeah, so those cards are good. Where you would probably be likely to see a card like that, the one that gains you 10 life, is in Temur Sabertooth, which is a really cool mono green deck in cPDH. It's a commonly seen cEDH card because it allows you to return your creature ETBs back to your hand over and over again. And so that deck uses cards like that because you can gain just so much life because the deck makes a ton of mana. But in this deck, it's not really the right home for it. We want threats. Life gain isn't really our main problem. So this one, if we have power 8 or greater, it gains Regenerate, but it's only a 3/2. And then we have Glade Watcher, can attack as if a defender, but we have to pay mana to do that. Stampeding Elkherd is where we want to be. Yeah, okay. Frontier Mastodon comes into a +1/+1 counter on it if you control a power of 4 or greater. Mastodon's actually pretty good. Mastodon is a second copy of Skophos Reaver. Because anything that comes in as a 4-power creature kind of meets our criteria. William Hunt, welcome. Glad to have you here in the chat. Just turning in on a break. Is Nylea's Forerunner in the list or being considered? That was one of the ones I was looking for. You must have dropped in right when we were looking for it, and it doesn't come up when you search this because it's yeah. This would be another card we could play. In fact, maybe we do want to play it. Yeah, I think Nylea's Forerunner is great. Yeah, just another like trample anthem is going to be good. But this Frontier Mastodon is sweet. All we need to do is go to combat, double something's power, and then after combat, we can cast the Mastodon with Ferocious. And then we get a 4-power creature for 3 mana that becomes an 8-power creature when we attack. It doesn't have evasion though, so maybe this just is a little too cute. Erosium asking about Rancor and Itali's favor. We do have Rancor. Discover 3. So this is going to cascade into a ramp spell. I don't think this is what we want because it's Discover 3. It's a little too, the number is too low, right? We want to cascade into big things. Timmy speaking, yeah, understood. Okay, so these here are Stampeding Elkherd for creatures. Nylea's Forerunner. The Mastodon is cool, but we're just gonna have to sideboard it for now. We don't have enough space for it. Again, we have a little too much ramp here, so we did cut the Packmate could go too. Packmate's a little awkward on the curve because we want to run out, like the way it's gonna work, I think, is we're gonna run out Orfeo on 3 in a lot of games, and then we're gonna play some big threats. So Orfeo might swing the first time. But like cheap stuff after that, I don't know. We probably want to land some some chonkers, which is going to make it hard for us to hold up interaction, but this is going to be kind of a proactive mid-range deck. So let's make sure to add that. Have you looked, oh, Zach, what's up, dude? Have you looked at any double strikers? This is big bodies, buffs plus evasion, right? Yeah. Thanks for joining, buddy. Good to see you. We got to hang out and play some Magic soon. Type creature. Yeah, so like Spell Eater Wolverine would be pretty premium. I don't think these are... If you put a cranial plating on one of these things and it double strikes, it's going to be powerful. However, man, Spell Eater Wolverine is like so much better than all of these other ones. It's 3 power for 3. All these other ones are like, yeah, we'll give you a power and you can have double strike, but this one's like 3 power, 6 power with the double strike. That one would be pretty cool. But we don't have a ton of... How many instances sorceries do we have? Let's see. I think it was 24. So it's not impossible to imagine that being on. And I like that it can just like, it's just going to like win in combat all the time, which is cool. It doesn't have any evasion. We do have double strike with Teamer Battle Rage, and then we just, like Teamer Battle Rage. Teamer Battle Rage is like a second copy of Mr. Orfeo. That's the way I see it. Cloak of the Bat is another card that we have here. I think Cloak of the Bat's going to be could be really good, but it's a little spendy. It like really maximizes our explosivity, which we also get with Tuk Tuk Rubble Fort and with Crashing Drawbridge. So I think we can cut Cloak of the Bat. The flying is very sick. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Haunted Cloak, obviously like super based in this deck. It's really good. Haste type equipment. Oh shoot, I forgot we don't even have like the we don't have like Dragon's Breath. Dragon's Breath should be in here. Lobert just finished a game and you're still going, you madman. You know it, baby. We're down to the last few cuts. And you know me, I'm out here looking for more cards to add. Crystal Slipper would be good, but nothing really holds a candle to Haunted Cloak. It's like, you want evasion? We've got it. You want haste? We've got it. You want to block? We've got it. This is just like so sick. So I think we can cut Cloak of the Bat. 4 more cards to cut. Greater Tanuki, maybe. I don't like cutting it. And Jewel Thief is pretty cool because you can go Jewel Thief into Mr. Orfeo if you didn't hit a Mana Rock, and then pump up Jewel Thief immediately, which is pretty cool. Mr. Orfeo is an interesting one. There's this temptation to play big things, and at the same time though, like the curve of going, and this is just just letting the thoughts roll a little bit here. At the same time though, if you cast like if you have a 3 mana creature and Orfeo comes down, he pumps it immediately, whereas ramping into Orfeo, your first combat gets kind of like wasted. You kind of waste the haste. Which would suggest that we want more of like the Scophos Reaver and the Mastodon, like a little bit cheaper creatures. But Lobert says, do you know what's up with the legality issues lately? I've heard nothing. I don't know. I don't know anything. I know nothing. My brain is too smooth. I haven't been super plugged in, but yeah, you can see it's all red right now. Erosium says, I know we're still in cuts. Miming Slime is a small, big body. Miming Slime. I know this card, but I'm forgetting it now. Okay. Oh. Oh, so this just makes something quite large. So like a 3-mana 6/6. I think we want Miming Slime. Like the worst case scenario on Miming Slime is that you get a 4/4 because you attack with Mr. Orfeo, double your power. But the best case scenario is like double the power of my troll and make a 12/12. That's a great recommendation, Erosium. No evasion, but you know what? It's just huge. It's way bigger than everything else. Which is sweet. Snuff Out is a little bit funny here. Because we actually like don't have a ton of swamp. Black is our least common color in the deck. Erosium saying I'm 100% building this after the stream. That is awesome. I hope you do. Snuff Out might need to be something else. We could just play like a Flame Slash, right? Like I kind of like the idea of our removal being like the Flame Slash would still. It is sorcery speed. We do want it to be instant, ideally, right? Blood Frenzy would be... This is a cool card. I really wish I had the courage to play this in more decks. But it doesn't stop combo creatures, and that's my main concern. Target attacking or blocking creature gets +4/+0 until end of turn. You mess with combat math, and then they have to destroy it at end of turn. Or at the beginning of your next end step, yeah. There's all these, but Doomblade, pretty good card. I think we could play that instead of Snuff Out. Echoing Decay, pretty important card. However, we have a lot of sweepers, so maybe that's not important. We have like we profitably play a lot of really good sweepers. We aren't hungry for it. This could stay out. I almost never don't play Echoing Decay. It's just a very good card right now. Ghastly Demise. It's going to be a little inconsistent in this deck. Lash of Malice. That's kind of interesting. Lash of Malice is like a 1-mana -2/2 that can also be a pump spell. These decks with huge creatures have a hard time holding up removal. I'm not sure about cutting Snuff. I just not confident that we have like a swamp in play, I guess. What do you think about that, Lobert? Because like I also like we came here to play a deck with like just good red, black, green cards. Snuff Out is a great black card and just an amazing card in general. But my concern is that black is our least played color. It's 22% of the deck. The other ones are 30% of the deck. I mean, the other thing is that we win in combat. So like, you know, Outnumber wouldn't be bad. Outnumber just being a 1-mana deal 4 at instant speed, probably. Early on, it's going to be like a shock. And then as you get later on, like our stuff doesn't die super easily. I kind of like Outnumber here. It's weird because it's like we have a chonky deck. But like 32 creatures. It's like not, so on turn 4, it would be a shock. Turn 5, it'd be a shock. Maybe a bolt. There's also prize fight, which does make a treasure, which is pretty sweet. So this is actually ramp and removal at the same time. We could also play Pyro and Reb if we really wanted to be like interacting. That actually isn't a bad idea. Because really this removal is for combo creatures. We win combat, right? Like we do that. So like Pyro and Reb would actually be pretty sweet here. And it's not for protecting our stuff really, but it's for like countering, Ghostly Flicker or Freed from the Real. You have the duels and 3 ramp spells that find duels. I think you'll have a swamp by the time combos are an actual threat, turn 5 or something. You'll also have all the cyclers, which swamp tutor. Yep. You think you'll have no issues? Okay. I don't fully share your confidence, but I think you do make some sense. Enough for me to bring Snuff Out back in. Of course, Scred. There's a good chance that we actually like that our removal might look a little different here than a lot of other decks. Vendetta is a card I've been playing a lot, but that's because my black decks gain lots of life. So, okay. Yeah, that was a good foray. I think Scred is going to be very good. I think Scred is going to do a lot of work. I think Pyro and Reb are exactly what we wanted, and occasionally they will help us kill somebody. Oh, 30th anniversary. Oh no, look what I've done. Everybody call the police. Okay, Pyroblast. I love those gold borders. Okay. There. And now we have 109 cards. We're back up to a lot of cards. I concur about the Blast. JUND is weakest on the stack. You know another great snow card? Oh, I know, buddy. I got you covered. I called you out early on. Don't worry, baby. Arkham's Astrolabe is here to make you feel good. I think it's going to be great in this deck as well. So, I think we take the Tanuki out, sideboard that. Yes. Oh, I got you covered, buddy. I got you covered. Ram through is good. Terminate, Fling. Doomblade can go. We don't need Doomblade because we have all this stuff. And this is actually very efficient. These are all like very efficient spells. Fling. I don't know if I love Fling. In fact, I think I really don't love Fling. Fling is going to kill somebody, but like at the cost of one of my creatures? Yeah, Laubert's, for those of you who haven't seen it, Laubert made a great video on, and I'm going to post it in chat here. Great video on his favorite card, the card that he thinks should go in every deck in cPDH. And it is Arkham's Astrolabe. Yeah, we got to find this video here one sec. Yep, you should be playing this staple. And I'm not gonna do a live reaction or anything, but I am going to gently disagree on this point. He makes a really good case for it, so you should watch this video and judge for yourself. I think that Arkham's Astrolabe has gotten much better with the sacrifice effects. But the comparison and the references of Arkham's Astrolabe to 60 card fall really short. And I'll tell you why. Arkham's Astrolabe is not broken in our format, even close to what it is in others, because it's a 100 card singleton. When you can play 4 of a card in a 60 card deck, and it makes your mana perfect, and you're in a Blood Moon format, or you're in, or just land destruction type stuff is out there. Arkham's Astrolabe is really good. right? Like and no, it doesn't need very much introduction or explanation. Arkham's Astrolabe is really good, but as a one of in a 100 card deck, I think that it is nowhere near staple. I have been playing it in more decks because the fact that it's a 1 mana artifact that draws a card that you can sack to Deadly Dispute type stuff makes it good. So it's not bad. It's just that I don't know that it's staple, which is good for you all because snowlands are expensive. Gravitic Punch is another version of Fling. No, Lobert, send it, dude. You write all you want, man. You're free and welcome to post your rationale for folks. But of course, we don't want to ruin it too. We want you all to watch his video. So maybe you shouldn't say anything, Lobert, and let him watch your video. You make a good case. I just don't think that it's staple, and that's okay. That's okay. It's ultimately like nitpicking, right? It's like yeah, you're right. It's good. It's just not staple. Is basically nitpicking. Zertos Swine. Oh, an H. I forgot. Oh, Zertos Swine. Yeah, this is good too. It doesn't give trample. Yeah, it doesn't give trample, but this is sweet. And in fact, there is like a much more aggressive version of this deck out there, I think. Like even more aggressive. Like you do all of this, all the black recursion. You don't really do the Monarch. You do like, you know, this stuff and bringing them back and reusing them over and over and over again, which could be really cool too. I mean, +5 is basically +10. But if you don't have trample already, then yeah. Okay. So we're getting pretty close here. 6 cards to cut. It's a mess. Why is everything over here? Everything is like stacked over here. It's very annoying. It's very tall. And Arkham's Astrolabe here is great because we have a 3-color deck. And our likelihood of being able to use this is high. But actually, just as another point, Lobert, I have like gone back and forth on Arkham's Astrolabe in Third Path Iconoclast, and what's made it happen for me is that the reason I sometimes don't have it in the deck, I like go back and forth, is because like half the time I've drawn it, and this might be recency bias, it was not playable because I had some other land in play that wasn't a snow land, right? Like one time I had the Molten card, the Molten dual land, and I was like, oh my god, I can't even fucking cast this thing, and it was like derailing me. So okay, so maybe like Night's Whisper. Night's Whisper is really good, but I think the Boarding Party is also a reasonable one, although we need to put this in draw. It's basically drawing a card. This is draw. This is draw. I need to see how many draw spells we have. Because the Initiative and the Monarch is all draw. It draws cards. Definition of a staple is a card that's good across many archetypes. It's good in Flicker, Aristocrats, Affinity, Black in general. I like it with Impulse draws, bounce spells more, I'm sure. Yeah, so that's interesting. I don't think... that's not how I would define staple, but I think that's a super reasonable definition of staple. I'm not sure if that's how other people use the term staple. Like Snuff Out in black decks is a staple. You always see Snuff Out in black decks. Victim of Night, you always see, like almost always see Victim of Night in black decks. You know, Oubliette or something, or Lightning Bolt, not always the case, but mostly. Like those are ones that see more play, right? Any mass removal for small creatures? Yes, we do. We have actually quite a bit. We have Breath Weapon, Crypt Rats, Fiery Cannonade, Pestilence, and Shinnin. Yeah. You should. Y'all should watch the video after you're done with this one here. Go check it out. Shinnin of Life's Roar is interesting. This is kind of like the worst of them. I think we're gonna cut this. And we might need to call this here with just a couple cards. to get tuned up. Actually, I think that's what we'll do. So we have 105 cards. Let's see, do I have to get out of the way to show the 105? There it is. Zoo. We have 105 cards. We're really close to making it. We've got the vibe. We've got the energy. This is like, we're close. Ramp, chunky creatures that have good ETBs, cycling, and we're bringing them back so we can get value from them over and over again, or so we can get value from them and then use them as a threat. Slightly less removal, but solid Wraths. And this deck is amazing with Wraths because we really don't lose anything to the Wraths. We have a couple of spells that can be used to just like kill people. Soul's Fire being one of them as well. And I did actually see, I know one of you mentioned Gravitic Punch as another option too. Gravitic Punch could be really good here. Yeah. And then we have like a big initiative Monarch thing going on here too, which is like most of our card draw. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'm going to figure out what the last cuts are at another point in time. But in the meantime, there you go. There's the list. Let us Chain Devil. Yeah, Chain Devil could potentially go, but it works nicely with the recursion. Chain Devil could be a cut. Chain Devil taking out threats from everybody feels pretty good. Edicts are a little weird right now, though. Yeah, Gravitic Punch is super strong. I'll bring it up here. Target creature deals damage equal to its power to target player. Jumpstart. It's pretty sick. And maybe these are the cards we need in Mr. Orfeo to like really. I have a hard time believing that we'd have any trouble closing out a game with Mr. Orfeo because like Orfeo is closing power. Right, it's a lot of damage. So Gravitic Punch feels like leaning into it maybe a little more than I would want, but it does kind of read like kill two players. So yeah, I mean, let's throw this in the deck. Let's do it. This one here is, I don't know, it's kind of pump. We need to have like a One Punch Man category like this. And then we need, where's our Ram Through? Ram Through does the same. Yeah. Ram Through sometimes is going to do a ton of damage. Okay. Well, with that, chat, it's been awesome having you all here. Fun trying out the new camera system. Appreciate your all's patience with all the technical stuff here, and also with a little bit of inconsistency in the content. Again, got some health problems I'm working on right now, so we'll be trying to get back to 2 days a week here at some point, so we can actually play some games. I have not been able to play games consistently like I'd like to, so we'll be doing, and there might be a shift in the schedule there too. Might be doing it on Thursday from now on. Just to meet my schedule that I currently have. So it might be like a Monday, Thursday kind of a thing. We'll see. But yeah, got good stuff coming down the line. I think at some point we're going to be working on Kutzil from the last set, which would be really fun. Maybe Zawoya. Try and get some of those ones from Lost Caverns of Ixalan done before the new sets come. And yeah, Erosium says, thanks for putting on a sweet vid with everything going on in your life, man. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Push for 2K subs, though, any second now. Are we close? Are we close? How close are we? Whoa. We're really close. 1.99. Chat. Tell your friends. Tell them to become connoisseurs. We're at, oh my God, we're at 7 subscribers away. How crazy is that? Thank you, Lobert. Appreciate it. Yeah, if you're enjoying the content, do make sure to like and subscribe. Also, if you want to leave any comments for the algorithm, that really does help other people see more of the content. And when more people see it, more people sign up for Patreon, and more people like the video, that'll increases the AdSense that I get. One thing I want to mention as well is that My goal is to not be relying on AdSense for revenue from this, because AdSense disrupts your experience. It makes the content quality worse. And it doesn't pay me very much. I make between $10 and $20 a month, which is like kind of a kick in the nuts off of AdSense. And I'd much rather just turn it off. And you all can help me do that by going onto patreon.com/common connoisseurs, where you can sign up for the Patreon for as little as $2 a month, which will get you access to the supporter section of the Discord, which is where I post all of my updates on all of my decks, so that you can be right on track with your own decks and see what I'm considering, what I'm building. It's a great way to kind of get in my head in the deck building process in a way that you don't have access to on Moxfield. There's no way to see all the updates I make to my decks that way. But I will tag everybody in the supporter section when I make Discord changes to the decks. So yeah, make sure to go check out Patreon if you want to support the content. If everybody in the Discord server supported me at $1 a month, it would literally be like $750 a month right now, which would allow me to buy better camera equipment, better green screen stuff. It would enable a lot of really positive changes. I would be able to hire an editor. So yeah, just consider that. You all have a lot of power to make a positive difference in content creators' lives and remaining independent. So yeah, but with that, I do want to take a moment, I haven't shouted them out in a little while here, to shout out the patrons who support this content. So let me get their names real quick here. All right, we have, let's see, we'll go to active, there we go. We have Yo Man Yo, we have Brennan, Joel, HZ, Luke, Max, Paul, Neil, Alex, Jared, Dax, the PDH pod, Eric, Adgan, Zach, Scooby, Chris, William, Paul, Corey, Derek, Ian, and Noyark. So thank you all so much for your support. Really appreciate you. And looking forward to keeping the content rolling into the new year. So with that, let's, oh, that's rather garish. I don't know. Maybe we'll stay here. Maybe we'll stay here. Oh, man. Yeah, but with that, anyways, Connoisseurs of Fine Common Cardboard, wherever you are in the multiverse, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you on the battlefield. Peace out, friends.